we're just fed so much nonsense. We're fed so much BS about sales, about entrepreneurship, about marketing, because marketing and sales, they hold hands. We're fed so much nonsense that is not applicable today. It's outdated. It's not one size fits all. And we need to start shifting things around in a way that feels true to us, that feels like something we can actually do, and not just feels like it, but gets the results in the end.
Yes. You cannot sell your product or service well if you do not feel aligned to it. And so if you are not selling in a way that is aligned to your values and selling it from a place of integrity, then you're not going to sell well.
I really genuinely can't stand the idea that you just need to pick somebody apart and tell them why they're wrong in order to get them to buy in with you.
Here's the reality. The most confident saleswomen or salespeople know when to let a customer walk away. It's my sales hot take for you today. And what you're going to hear in modern day sales trainings is that you need to overcome every objection that you're thrown. But the reality is that not every customer is your customer.
If you've ever been told to overcome all of your clients' objections so that you can move forward with the sale, then you're probably frustrated beyond belief by the nonsense that people have been spouting at you. Because that isn't the way humans work. And if you are a human in business, not a bro, keep in mind, you want to make this feel like home. You want to make this feel good. Conversion that feels good. And that's why we have Andy here today. She's going to tell us a little bit about herself and why this topic matters to her, why it should also matter to you. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. My name is Andy Hart, and I am the owner of She Sells Differently. I help creative entrepreneurs learn how to overcome their fear of selling because let's be real, selling is a part of our everyday lives. And I got my start as an entrepreneur with my candle company, Heart Design Co. And I started wholesaling my candles, and they can now be found in shops all over North America. And from that, I started She Sells Differently, where I really help creative entrepreneurs learn how to wholesale their products and get them in boutiques everywhere. And like I said, overcome that fear of selling because we all have beautiful products and offers that deserve to be out into the world. And so I am that sales nerd. I love sales. And so I spent over 17 years in corporate sales, and I love talking all things sales and getting rid of the sales tactics that we hear in common everyday culture. So that is what I am here to talk about.
And we all need that conversation. Yes. Even if you don't think you need that conversation, friends, you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're just fed so much nonsense. We're fed so much BS about sales, about entrepreneurship, about marketing, because marketing and sales, they hold hands, right? We're fed so much nonsense that is not applicable today. It's outdated. It's not one size fits all. And we need to start shifting things around in a way that feels true to us, that feels like something we can actually do, and not just feels like it, but gets the results in the end. That's the kind of journey that I feel like people only preach the results, right? They say, oh, this is going to work because you're going to make millions or whatever. And then they forget the part where, okay, but are you going to sell your soul?
Right.
We want both. We want to keep our soul and make millions.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, you cannot sell your product or service well if you do not feel aligned to it. And so if you are not selling in a way that is aligned to your values and selling it from a place of integrity, then you're not going to sell well. And we as women, we really struggle with that so often because we are preached these bro marketing tactics, these bro sales frameworks,
Yeah.
and we need to throw that advice out the window. And so that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, because I really genuinely can't stand the idea that you just need to pick somebody apart and tell them why they're wrong in order to get them to buy in with you.
Right.
So that's one of the things that when we're talking about handling objections, that's one of the things that this bro marketing kind of idea touches on, is this idea that you need to make sure that they're wrong and that the right choice is to invest with you. But something you said really resonated with me, and is this concept of like, you actually need to know when to walk away. And
Right.
that is more of a powerhouse move than closing the deal.
Yep. So here's the reality. The most confident saleswomen or salespeople know when to let a customer walk away.
Mm.
That's my sales hot take for you today. And what you're going to hear in modern day sales trainings is that you need to overcome every objection that you're thrown. But the reality is that not every customer is your customer. Not every customer is your customer right now. They may not be ready for what you have to offer yet, or they just may not be your customer. And so when you say no to the wrong customers, you're making space for the right customers. And this is not an easy sales skill to learn, but when you master it, friend, you open up a world of possibilities. And so there are several things that you can do to really work through how to build this sales muscle, I say, because it really is a muscle that you have to build to let,
Practice makes progress.
yeah, to let
Yeah.
customers walk away. It's hard, especially when you want to make a sale.
Yeah.
Um, but what I have found when I have said no to a customer, especially when they're ready to hand me $1,000 for my course, when I have said no to a customer, one of two things happens. First, they are like their jaw drops, but I usually will refer them to someone that can better help them. And one of two things happens. They will refer someone back to me, a friend that will purchase from me and become a client, or they will come back when it is the right time to work with me and invest in working with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, learning this skill and I actually call it discernment-based selling, actually comes back and will just pour back into your business tenfold.
It pays dividends. It
Yeah.
does. And it's not only in the financial part of things, which is what people
Right.
oftentimes refer to sales successes to. Um,
Mhm.
we just said, you turn somebody down, but you got two other people or whatever, right? But the other part of that is something that I have spoken about many times because I've lived it, and I know so many of my clients and friends and colleagues have lived it too, is when you say yes to the wrong person and it bites you in the ass. I don't know how else to put it. Everybody knows what I
Well,
mean, right? You're working with
100%.
this person and they are a pain. They're not worth the money. You could have charged them twice as much and they're not worth the money. And
Yep.
I guess that's the extreme part of it. That's the extreme version of saying yes when you should have said no. But there are other versions too. There are other versions too. I like to talk about, the right fit client or your ideal client. This is common jargon
Yeah.
in the marketing world, and that's great. Of course, you want to work with your right fit or aligned client in some way. But what if you had a choice between working with your right fit client and your dream client? This is a crucial decision point that often happens a little later in business, but you're then able to choose to work with somebody who's not just I can provide results for you, but like I can change your life and I'm going to feel amazing working with you
Transformative.
for them and for you. I
Yes.
love hopping on calls with my dream clients. I don't want to miss them. I don't feel like it's a job. I
You're
get so
excited.
right. There's a
Yeah.
different energy exchange. And that's why I say that sales, like that's also your energy, your time, your passion. That all has to be taken into account
Yeah.
when you're saying yes or no to your prospective clients.
So let's talk through, because I think it's important for you when you are talking and engaging with potential clients and you're in that sales process. So, how do you know if they are your dream client or not? Usually you kind of have that gut feeling, but I often don't like to go on feelings,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're anything like me, my feelings can lead me astray, because I sometimes am like, okay, I mean, we're human by nature, right? And so like I'm like, okay, well, I want to make the sale.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, we are going for transformation and we're selling based on discernment. So how do you work through discernment-based selling? And there are 4 things that I always work through. And so I always tell my clients, the first thing is, your non-negotiables. Your non-negotiables. Who your offer is, and I always say this, I work it backwards. Who is your offer not for? Who is your offer not for? So we always say, okay, who is your ideal client? But think about that in reverse. Who do who is your offer not for? Who do you not want to work for? And I think when you have that in mind, then you have a lot more clarity when you are talking with someone. And those, when you know your non negotiables, you can quickly rule out someone that is not the right fit. Now, I'm not talking about they're annoying or something
Yeah.
like that. I'm talking about they are just not at the right point, or their goals do not align with what you offer.
Yeah.
Right?
And in the marketing world, a lot of times we're talking about qualifying. So for those who are
Exactly.
joining us for this conversation, this is the qualifying stage. This is, are they even going to be able to use what you have to offer?
Hmm.
If I'm qualifying somebody who I want to start a conversation with, if they're already a marketer, why would I talk to them?
Right.
That makes no sense, right?
Right.
Depending on, of course, a few other details, but that's down the line. So that's that qualifying bit. Are they even interested? If you're selling something for children, do they even have children?
Right. Exactly.
It matters. So that's your qualifying bit.
So that's actually the second piece, is that you ask those qualifying questions early. Because if you are not asking those qualifying questions, and I love that you use the word qualifying, because that is exactly what you're doing. You're asking those qualifying questions to see if your goals and the transformation that you provide aligns with the goals of the customer. Does this person even need what you offer? Because you don't want to take their money if you don't. And this is the number one reason, I always say this is the number one reason why we have a fear of selling,
Mm.
because we have had past experiences where we have been sold something and we have been promised something, and what was delivered did not live up to expectations.
Subpar at best.
Right?
Absolutely.
And the last thing that you want to do is to sell something and not live up to the expectations that you sold. What you want to do, and I always use this word, you want to surprise and delight. You want to over deliver for your customer. And the
Yeah,
only way you can do that is by asking those qualifying questions and knowing if their goals can provide, and the offer that you have can provide and meet those goals.
absolutely. And this is something interesting. Is like that's only the first two phases of making sure
Mhm.
that you're identifying your ideal, not just your ideal, right? This is we're walking towards, okay, so check one, you're okay with working with them. Check two, they've qualified that you could actually maybe sort of
Right.
help them. right? So they're just starting to qualify for your ideal client, your right fit client.
Right.
So what's the third one?
So the third one is, I love this one because we struggle with this one so much. Normalizing hearing no without spiraling.
Right.
Because so often, especially when we as entrepreneurs, we have, whether you're creating a product or a service or a course, whatever it is, when we hear the word no, we take it personally. We take it personally. And so I remember when I was in corporate world and I was selling a product that a company created, right? Or service. And it was like, okay, no wasn't personal because it was something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now no can be more personal because it's something I have
It's your
personally worked on.
business. Yeah.
But here's the reality. No is not a person. I hesitate to use the word attack because attack is kind of aggressive, right?
Yes,
But
yeah.
no is not is anything personal against you. When you reframe no as a data point and you use it to get feedback, you can actually become a stronger seller because you realize that no is actually means not yet. They're not ready for the product that you offer, or they're not the right fit. And so they just qualified themselves out, right?
Yeah.
They qualified themselves out for you.
Absolutely. I think that that's a really powerful thing to do. And there are a lot of different ways you can do that through conversation. You can also do it through forums and stuff like that within the prospective client's journey. It's
Right.
just letting them pre-qualify or pre-disqualify themselves. It saves you a lot of headache. It saves them a lot of headache. Just letting it be that. I think
Right.
that's a really great point.
Right. And I should say this too, whether you're having these conversations in person with someone or you are doing this through digital marketing and online selling and your sales copy, this all works the same way, right? Your sales copy is showing your non-negotiables and asking the qualifying questions so that your prospective client is qualifying themselves, right?
Absolutely.
So the last one is that you are following up with empathy, not pressure. And this is where not putting that pressure is so important because that's what we're always taught. And so I use the situation. I had when I was early on in my entrepreneurial journey, I had a customer that was ready to work with me. I have my signature course is called She Sells Wholesale. And I teach product makers how to get their products on boutique shelves. And she was ready to sign up. And she said, I want to work with you. I started asking her these qualifying questions. Turns
Mm-hmm.
out her goal was to start a subscription box.
Oh.
Now, I can teach you how to grow a business, right? I can teach you how to grow a product based business. I've not had any experience with growing a subscription box. That's
Right.
not my wheelhouse. And so I politely declined her and told her, if that is your end goal, I am not the person that you want to work with. Let me refer you to someone that I just learned about and I think would be a great person for you to work with. And she was like, really? So let me tell you what happened. A year later, she came around and, she stayed in my sphere of influence and still listened to my podcast on my email list. She came around and about 2 months ago, she invested in my course because she decided she was ready to start wholesaling.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So I did, pre-qualified her and, you know, use that discernment-based selling model. And she was not my customer a year ago, but now she is.
Mm.
And so I didn't put that pressure on her. And as a result, we have an amazing working relationship now, and she's thriving. So it really is that, saying no, I always use the analogy saying no is like in sales is like pruning. It may feel like a loss at the moment, but it really does create a space for healthy growth.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good kind of journey that you described. And this is something that people need to really understand. And we've had a few conversations on here with people who really get in touch with your intuition and with that human side of things, with your knowing. That's something that I really love that I pulled out of Glennon Doyle's writing. It's just that you're knowing, right?
Mhm.
And that's the other part of it. And when you're leaning towards your dream client, it's like, okay, you've gone through these steps and you understand where the no's can take place in order to give you those to free up that space as you
Yeah.
described.
Yeah.
And then if we kind of look the other way and if they're saying yes, if you're saying yes and they're saying yes and you're chugging along, now we get to that last point where you're like, okay, so they technically qualify. Now is the time, in my humble opinion, that you start to vet them.
Mm-hmm.
Now you start to vet them. You start to find out if you'll enjoy working with them. And this is where it does become a little bit more personal, but this is where you get to step into your role as a CEO, as a decision
Absolutely.
maker, where working with you becomes an opportunity for them. They get excited because they not only qualify, but you allow them to come into your world in a meaningful way, depending on the tier you're at. Like, some people are having, lower ticket offers. Some people are having higher. This is more along the lines of the higher ticket, medium
Mm-hmm.
ticket offers, right? And this is where you get to decide, do I want to work with a complainer? I don't know
Mm-hmm.
about the bandwidth for that. Or, ooh, that's a lot of trauma. Maybe that's not something that maybe I discern that they're actually not ready, in
Right.
a different sense of the phrase not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Some of the other ways, like you asked at the beginning, how do you tell? And I always laugh because I think of, I don't know if you've seen the Guardians with Jack Frost and Santa Claus, and
Yes. Yes.
so Santa goes, "I feel it in my jellies." And I'm like, that's where you kind of feel it. You're like,
Yeah.
"Do I jive?" Um, I have a client who right away you could just, I loved them. I
Yes.
just
You
loved them.
connect with them.
And I was like, okay, so in that regard, I kind of reversed the script and I was like, okay, I vibe with you. I want to be in your world. Now let's qualify you, see if I can actually help you. Because if I
Right.
can't, that's okay. I still want to be in your world. I still like you a lot. You're so
Yeah.
cool. And so just understanding that play and that excitement is when you move from just qualifying to actually vetting and being able to choose your dream clients. And that's a really, really important distinction.
I
Um,
love that you sorry, I was gonna say this. I love that you brought that up because there's an important piece of that here that you mentioned your intuition. Do you really enjoy, especially if it's a high ticket,
mhm.
mastermind or, intensive coaching, do you enjoy working with this person, right? And so you can mix, and you should mix these questions in this framework of qualifying and understanding, are they ready, and vetting them, but then mixing that with your intuition, right? Are
Yeah.
you enjoying? Because when you mix the two together, like these data points, but then your intuition, do you connect with this person? I think that's, to answer your earlier question, moving from finding a right fit client to a dream client.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of different ways we can approach this within the scope of sales. Like I say, sales and marketing, they hold hands. And we've really dug in on the whole idea of qualifying and vetting prospective clients and
Mhm.
getting them on that journey so that you're not feeling like the bro marketer who's all sale, 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 get the sale,
Right.
get this. That feels bad on
Yeah.
both sides. Nobody wants to be that sleazy salesperson. But there are a lot of different moving pieces to the sales to the sales process that I think is important to address. Now, we don't have all day to address them, but I
Mhm.
wonder if we can maybe at least briefly touch on a few things that could make a difference once you get to the point where, okay, this person is a fit. I do want to work with them. But there's a journey, there's a whole journey. There's a lot of little things that we need to take into account. A few things that I have kind of listed here include things like scripts, how you walk people through things like you were talking about the no and how a no is just a data point and how a lot of people take that as a failure. Like that sort of idea, we need to flip the way we think about those things. But the one main point that you and I kind of briefly mentioned at the beginning, before we hit record here, was about the follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
I think this plays into this journey that we're talking about vetting and having empathy at the end if they say no. That follow-up makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
You shared a statistic with me that said that 80% of sales, closed sales, require at least 5 follow-ups, 5 solid touch points coming back to them. And remarkably, even though the statistic exists, 40% of salespeople, business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, they give up after 1.
Yes.
That, I want you to talk to me about that with regards to that kind of final empathy phase of the process, understanding that in that empathy phase, people may have said yes and they may have said no, but there might be some additional touch points that are needed in order to progress that person. We've only got a couple of minutes, but I want to hear your 2 cents on that.
Yep. So here's the thing. We don't follow up because we don't want to be annoying. We don't follow up because we don't want to be annoying. But the reality is, even though it takes 5 or more follow-ups, it takes even more touch points. It used to be 7 or more touch points for a person to see your brand before they ever even considered making a purchase. I think now it's like 12 or more.
Oh yeah,
I could
it's
have that
anywhere between 12 and 18.
right. And so my point there is that you have to follow up. You have to follow up. But, and here's where I have a freebie for you guys, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. Here's where you can get really creative with your follow ups. It does not have to be a DM on Instagram or Facebook or an email. You can get creative and flip the script on how you follow up and do things completely different. What it could be is it could be a personal Loom video for someone that you really connected with, and you could send them a 3-minute video inviting and just thanking them for their time and inviting them to engage with you or to provide feedback or to become part of your coaching cohort. It could be, you know, a personal email, because we also often send mass emails. It could be a personal email. There's a lot of different ways that you can follow up.
I've gotten at least 2 postcards in the last like 6 months, and I
Snail
love
mail.
them.
I got a personal postcard
Yes.
as well. So there are a lot of different ways that you can follow up. And so I want to challenge you that you can do things differently, hence the name of my business, She Sells Differently, than what everyone else is doing. And so the world needs what you have to offer. And so you are serving your client when you follow up. And that is the mindset shift that I want you to have. Serving or following up is not annoying unless you make it.
That's right. That's right. And I guess this ties right back into the sales. Like the sales are not going to be salesy unless you make them salesy, unless
Yeah.
you push, you start trying to handle every objective and objection and push the yes. That makes sales salesy. Yeah. Follow up is going to be annoying if you make it annoying. If you're like, hey, did you hear me? Did you hear me? No. Be friendly, be human, connect, be authentic.
Yes.
Ooh. I think that's superb. Now, we have spoken about a lot of different things here, and I'm so glad that you were able to so concisely articulate the message about follow-ups, because that's honestly a whole conversation unto itself. We could do an entire episode about what do follow-ups look like. Maybe we will. We'll find out. But for the time being, I want to ask you, what is one thing that our audience can take away from this conversation? Because as I said, we've spoken about so many. What is one thing that they can take away from this conversation and apply today to create a meaningful impact in the way they look at sales or in the sales that they actually close, etc.? Now, before I get you to share that with the world, I want to remind everybody who has joined us today that we have conversations like this every single week. We want you to be a part of them. We want you to benefit from them. We want you to ask questions, and we want you to join. So press the subscribe button, ring the bell, make sure that you know when the next one's coming out so that you can share your 2 cents, because you've got important things to say, just as Andy mentioned earlier. So with that, I'll get off. I could be on that soapbox all day and start just ringing bells for you guys, but instead I'm going to take a step back today, and I'm going to let Andy share her amazing wealth of value to you right now.
Yes. So selling, if there's one mindset shift that I want you to remember, it is that selling does not have to be uncomfortable. Selling your product or your offer is so important because it brings value to others. And so you're actually serving others when you talk about it. The world needs what you have to offer. And so by sharing it with others, you are actually serving them. By sharing your offer with others, you are actually serving them. And that is the true essence of selling. I have a free list of ultimate sales tools, and this list has a ton of great ways that you can learn how to sell differently, great ways that you can learn how to follow up with your prospective clients and customers in different ways. So grab the QR code. You can download that ultimate list of sales tools and get started on learning how to sell differently in your business today.
Oh, that's so fabulous. Honestly, I have loathed for so long the bro tactics and the outdated
Yes,
status quo methods of yesteryear. And I genuinely feel like it's been shoved down my throat. And that's why I market differently. That's why I do things differently in what I do. Now, I don't claim to be a sales coach. I am a branding and marketing expert, which holds hands with sales. And that's why,
absolutely.
if you love what we talk about here, about marketing, about rebellious marketing, about doing things differently in that space, then you need to go and check out these tools. Because once you're done the marketing bit, it's time for the sales bit. It's time to actually convert in a way that feels good. And that's going to require a different approach in today's market. So with that, I want to thank you, Andy, for being a part of the show. I want to thank you all for joining us in this conversation. I look forward to hearing your 2 cents. And if you're looking into, okay, how do I do this whole branding, marketing, and then sales in a way that feels aligned, in a way that works because we want it to work, and in a way that really just brings out your best self, then you're going to want to have a conversation with us. You can find Andy at the link below, and my website link is below as well. Reach out to me. It's just my name, ShaunaLeigh.com, ShaunaLeigh.com. Say hi. I won't bite. Not hard. Chat soon.